The aircraft lies broken on uneven ground as dusk drains into night. Wind pushes dust and smoke sideways, and rotating red strobes cut the haze in slow arcs. Visibility drops under 100 yards. At 0204 hours, a female Air Force rescue team leader holds the perimeter with a small element while rotor wash fades and air cover departs. Signal strength degrades across the command net. She keys a cracked headset microphone and reports movement inside the wreckage. Breathing is audible beneath twisted metal. A stamped mission logbook rests open against the fuselage, time blocks already closing. Fuel margins bleed down by the minute, measured in yards to safety and minutes to bingo. Authorization to loiter is denied. Higher headquarters transmits a lawful withdrawal order. The site is assessed from off-site screens and classified as unrecoverable. Subordinates pass status up the chain, controlled and exact. The team leader acknowledges the order, because acknowledgement is required even when compliance is contested by ground truth. Perimeter stability thins on the east side. Wind scours the ground as smoke thickens. The radio hisses, then pops once into dead air. Distance to the nearest cover stretches beyond 200 yards. She listens and confirms respiration. Recovery denied. Survivors still breathing. Fuel window tightens to minutes. Liability settles where decisions are owned. The order stands. Breathing continues. And routine turns into crisis. Documentation continues as dusk holds low over the site. Dust drifts past a grounded rescue vehicle, engines idling steady, radios alive again after a brief pause. Data link restores at reduced quality, documenting what actually happened. Before we continue, subscribe to this channel for verified operational reporting. Say where you're listening from right now, then stay with us as the timeline closes back in on the wreckage without resolution pending. The rescue operation unfolds under U.S. authority in a controlled but deteriorating environment. Late dusk slides toward night as wind gusts push smoke across uneven ground. Visibility drops below 100 yards. Emergency strobes rotate through dust, marking the wreckage and nothing else. Rescue vehicles idle in place, engines low, crews waiting for authorization that has not yet come. Signal quality fluctuates across the net. The team leader is a female Air Force staff sergeant assigned to a combat rescue element tasked with recovery of personnel and sensitive equipment. She carries responsibility for the perimeter, casualty assessment, and reporting ground truth upward. Her authority ends where senior officers off-site retain control of air cover, landing zone declaration, and fuel allocation. A paper map lies open on the hood of a vehicle, red grease pencil routes tracing approach corridors that no longer apply. She checks a wrist timer and notes fuel margins shrinking in real time. Distance to the nearest viable landing surface exceeds 300 yards and is not improving. Rotor wash is absent now. Air support has departed on schedule, not on outcome. Perimeter sectors hold, but remain thin. Higher headquarters receives updates through relays and degraded feeds. From that distance, the site appears static, classified as lost due to weather, fuel constraints, and risk modeling. Screens show a grid square and a timeline already sliding past acceptable thresholds. From the perimeter, movement is visible inside the wreckage. Breathing is confirmed. Survivability remains an open question, not a closed file. Team members report in sequence, disciplined and brief. Each report moves to the team leader, then upward through command channels. No one raises their voice. No one dramatizes. The facts accumulate anyway. Chem lights mark sectors around twisted metal, casting weak green arcs against smoke. The ground slopes unpredictably, forcing constant adjustment. Visibility falls another increment. Engines idle as fuel time bleeds down, measured in minutes and gallons spoken aloud. At 0216 hours, the margin tightens enough to matter. The team leader requests clarification on extended cover and landing zone feasibility. The request is acknowledged, logged, and deferred. Wind rattles loose panels on the fuselage. Command authority remains distant but present. Senior officers hold the authorization to declare a landing zone and extend loiter time. Their assessment relies on standardized criteria, weather trend, fuel state, and projected risk. Those criteria do not include audible respiration or hand signals from inside wreckage. The divergence begins there. Radio traffic thins as channels prioritize essential traffic. The team leader adjusts her cracked headset mic and continues to transmit. Her role is not to overrule but to document. Every observation is time-stamped. Every denial is recorded. The mission parameters are clear. Recover if feasible. Withdraw if not. The definition of feasible is where judgment strains against distance. Chem lights flicker as wind shifts. Higher headquarters classifies the site as unrecoverable based on models that assume no survivability after a set window. That window closes on screens far away, on the ground. It remains open by minutes. Fuel calculations are recalculated again, now approaching minimums. A warning tone sounds briefly, then stops. The rescue vehicles remain staged, engines warm, crews strapped in. No landing zone is declared. No air cover returns. The team leader marks the denial in the logbook and looks back to the wreckage. The first fracture appears as a procedural denial of extended support, logged and acknowledged, with survivability still unconfirmed. No named locations, bases, or real-world crashes. Distinctiveness comes from weather degradation and command misclassification, not ambush lore. Night settles fully over the site, and the environment tightens around the rescue element. Wind drives dust across the ground in uneven sheets, reducing visibility below 100 yards in cycles. The wreckage creaks as temperature drops. Emergency strobes continue to rotate, but their reach shortens as particulate thickens. Engines idle and cycle to maintain readiness. Nothing moves without purpose now. Fuel status updates begin to dominate the net. Inside the fuselage, a medic works by headlamp, the beam cutting across bloodied metal and exposed wiring. Breathing remains present but shallow. Vital signs degrade in increments that matter. Each change is reported upward in clipped phrases. The team leader receives the updates, acknowledges, and relays them to higher headquarters with timestamps attached. Casualty condition shifts from stable to guarded. A risk timer counts down in seconds that feel heavier than minutes. Fuel margins bleed away in parallel. An aircraft overhead reports remaining time on station in numbers that compress the decision space. Distance to fallback positions remains unchanged at more than 200 yards, over ground that cannot be traversed quickly in low visibility. Perimeter spacing narrows by design. Movement registers near the outer sector, not confirmed as hostile but close enough to force adjustment. Team members rotate positions, boots crunching gravel, weapons held low but ready. The team leader logs the adjustment and reports the change in posture. No escalation is authorized. Signal quality drops again. Requests move upward for extended cover and additional time. Each request is framed in data: casualty status, fuel, state, weather trend. Each response returns procedural and delayed. Authorization to loiter remains denied. The denial is not personal. It is structured. A fuel gauge ticks below a critical mark. Radio traffic accelerates. Overlapping calls resolved by discipline rather than volume. Alarm tones sound briefly from one vehicle, then cut out as systems stabilize. Rotor noise returns faintly in the distance, not close enough to matter yet. Cassidy status worsens incrementally. The medic adjusts position, headlamp clicking off and on to preserve battery. Hands work methodically. The team leader watches the wrist timer again and recalculates. At 0242 hours, the margin compresses further. She transmits updated feasibility estimates, careful not to editorialize. Command response remains unchanged. Dust thickens along the perimeter. Chem lights dim under coating grit. The uneven ground forces tighter spacing. Every yard matters now. Movement outside the marked boundary pauses, then disappears from view. Perimeter integrity holds but strains. Another aircraft reports fuel state and confirms departure time if no change occurs. The team leader acknowledges and records it. She requests confirmation that the site remains classified unrecoverable despite live casualties. The response affirms the classification based on criteria already stated. Casualty respiration becomes irregular. The radio handset grows slick with dust. Voices remain calm. Data accumulates faster than authority adapts. The team leader remains bound by existing orders while conditions slide. Signal latency increases across the net. Engines cycle again to maintain readiness. The medic reports diminished responsiveness. The team leader transmits the update with time and assessment. She requests reconsideration of air cover. The answer is delayed, then negative. Fuel time drops under 20 minutes. Wind shifts direction, pushing smoke back toward the fuselage. Visibility dips under 100 yards again. The perimeter tightens another increment. Time, fuel, and authority collapsing. An alarm tone sounds from overhead, indicating an approaching decision point. The team leader logs it. She looks at the wreckage, then at the timer, then back to the radio. The current approach holds for seconds, not minutes, and the next decision cycle cannot be absorbed without change. No kill setups or staged ambush beats. Threat is proximity and pressure, not cinematic firefights. The turning point arrives without raised voices or sudden motion. Night operations stabilize as wind moderates, though dust still hangs low and visibility fluctuates around 100 yards. Rescue vehicles remain in position, engines idling steady. The perimeter holds its shape. The situation is no longer expanding, but it is no longer absorbable under standing assumptions. Vital signs logged and time stamped. The team leader stops framing updates as requests. She centers the radio handset, synchronizes her wrist timer, and transmits on the open command net. Her voice remains even. She states casualty status, respiratory rhythm, responsiveness, and injury pattern in plain terms. Each data point carries a timestamp spoken aloud. Each assessment is paired with a feasibility window measured in minutes, not hope. Command net traffic pauses. She follows with terrain assessment and extraction math. Distance from wreckage to the nearest workable landing surface measures just over 200 yards across uneven ground. Wind trend stabilizes. Visibility remains marginal, but predictable. She states fuel margins overhead and the minimum time required to execute extraction if authorization is granted immediately. Feasibility window validated within margins. Aircraft overhead confirm updated fuel states and remaining time on station. Those numbers are spoken aloud and logged. Alarm tones cease. Rotor wash remains distant, but steady. The medic reports a brief improvement in responsiveness after intervention, then holds. Casualty responsiveness confirmed and logged. The team leader continues without commentary. She cites the stamped log entry, reads the time aloud, and confirms the record is live. She states that survivability criteria are met within the defined window, and that continued classification of the site as unrecoverable no longer matches ground truth. Command acknowledgement received. On command screens far from the site, data overlays replace earlier assumptions. Timestamps align, feeds corroborate. The open net carries silence not because of confusion, but because responsibility is settling into place. Signal clarity improves across channels. A senior officer responds, measured and direct. Authorization boundaries are restated. Then they shift. Extended coverage is approved within defined limits. Extraction is authorized contingent on adherence to the feasibility window just presented. The decision is logged with name, time, and conditions. Coverage authorized under stated parameters. The team leader acknowledges. No emphasis. No relief spoken aloud. She repeats the authorization to ensure accuracy and logs it. Responsibility is now explicit, owned at the level where authority resides. Perimeter posture adjusted to hold. Aircraft reposition overhead. Fuel calculations are updated and confirmed. The medic reports stable vitals within the expected range. The team leader assigns tasks in short phrases. Subordinates respond cleanly. No one rushes. No one celebrates. Extraction timelines synchronized. Radio squelch breaks into controlled silence, then returns with acknowledgments. Engines cycle up. Rotor wash increases, now close enough to matter. Dust lifts and shifts, but remains manageable. The uneven ground is marked again with chem lights to guide movement. Command direction. Confirmed and logged. The immediate threat is contained by process, not force. Survivability is no longer hypothetical. Accountability is no longer deferred. Every action now sits on record with time, name, and authorization attached. Ground truth overrides assumption. The operation moves forward under revised orders, fully documented, with responsibility clearly assigned and the record closed on the decision point. No dramatic mutiny language. Reversal is procedural proof, not defiance theatrics. The extraction proceeds under reduced light as aircraft lift clear and rotor wash diminishes. The crash site quiets. Empty perimeter markers remain in place beyond 100 yards, no longer contested. At 0315 hours, gear comes off methodically. Gloves are removed with steady hands. Fuel state is no longer critical, and engines spool down to idle before shutting off. Authority remains intact throughout. The female Air Force rescue team leader reports completion up the chain and closes the loop without commentary. Senior officers acknowledge receipt and responsibility in return. Orders are followed as written once corrected, and every adjustment is logged for review rather than argued in the moment. Extraction complete and site cleared. Rotor noise fades into ambient air. A radio headset is set down beside a closed command log. Perimeter markers are left behind as reference points, not trophies. Distance and time mattered earlier. Now they sit as data points that explain why judgment was required, not optional. Duty requires judgment. This operation does not hinge on defiance or heroics. It turns on lawful judgment exercised inside the system, using documentation to correct incomplete orders while respecting the chain that issued them. Distance creates blind spots. Ground truth closes them when recorded properly. Nothing here overrides authority. It reinforces it. Lawful refusal is not silence or disobedience, but precise reporting that survives review boards and timelines. The outcome protects people on the ground and the institution responsible for them. That balance is the standard. Even when time compresses and margins disappear, judgment is exercised, recorded, and owned by command. Accountability flows forward through review, not backward through blame. The record holds. Duty continues to the next task under the same rules that governed this one. Avoid revenge framing. Moral clarity comes from process, not anger. The operation ends, but the record remains. At 0328 hours, the site sits quiet. An empty radio headset rests on a case. An aircraft silhouette fades beyond 200 yards. No engines run. Orders exist in writing. Ground truth exists in logs. Both carry authority when reviewed later by officers who were not present. Log timestamp freezes and does not move. Which order do you follow? Do you execute the withdrawal as written, protect compliance, and accept the outcome recorded that night? Or do you hold position, document survivability in real time, and force reconsideration before lives expire? One choice shields careers and preserves paperwork. The other risks reprimand, but preserves people still breathing. Both paths are lawful until tested by review. Choose one. State which order you follow, and explain why. In the comments. No vague, "what would you do" phrasing. Must force a procedural choice. The flight line rests quiet at 0455 hours. Dawn light reaches across cleared ground within 300 yards. Runway lights stay dark. No engines run. The command log closes with a final entry. Decisions remain recorded. Reviews follow. Responsibility stays attached to rank and signature, not memory. Extraction complete. Site cleared. Record sealed. Next mission loading. These operations do not end when the aircraft lifts. They continue in after-action reviews, in training updates, and in the next call that comes across the net. What holds is the process. What carries forward is accountability. If this documentation matters to you, like the video and subscribe to the channel. We track what happens, who decides, and how outcomes are owned. The next mission is already waiting. We will step into it the same way, calm, procedural, and on the record. No sequel tease language tied to prior stories. Forward continuity only.